Closer to the present, consider Venezuela in the 2010s, where financial mismanagement and corruption became a national crisis. Oil revenues were misused, inflation skyrocketed, and the currency collapsed. Citizens holding only local currency lost their life savings. Those who maintained tangible assets, diversified income sources, or relied on transferable skills could survive. This isn't just a modern anecdote, it's history repeating itself. Fragile systems, mismanaged finances, and blind trust in paper money always create disasters. The pattern is striking. Whether it's France, England, the Netherlands, America, Japan, or Venezuela, the elements are the same. Scandals thrive when trust is abused, speculation runs wild, and paper wealth detaches from real value. And yet, most financial education focuses on accumulation rather than resilience, making these lessons easy to forget. So what can we learn from these forgotten financial scandals? First, never confuse wealth with value. A rising stock price or inflated property is not security. Real value is rooted in utility, scarcity, and resilience, land that produces, skills that can be traded, or assets people need regardless of market sentiment. Second, diversify your forms of value. Don't rely solely on currency, stocks, or speculative ventures. Own assets that provide real utility and protect against systemic collapse. Third, understand the systems that govern money. From central banks to financial regulators, knowing how money flows and can be manipulated gives you an edge few others have. History also teaches a more subtle lesson. Those who chase illusions are always vulnerable, while those who build real value endure. The French aristocrats lost everything when paper wealth failed. The South Sea investors and tulip speculators learned the same lesson. Even modern economies faltered when trust in finance broke down. But the nations, businesses, and people who focused on tangible value, productivity, knowledge, resources, skills, survived and often thrived afterward. This isn't about paranoia, it's about preparation. Financial scandals don't have to ruin your life if you recognize the difference between illusion and reality. You can build a foundation that endures crashes, collapses, and collapses of confidence. You can invest in yourself, in skills, in assets, and in relationships that hold real value. You can outlast the cycles that destroy those chasing only paper wealth. So next time someone tells you wealth is measured by numbers on a statement or the size of your portfolio, remember history. Remember France in the 1720s. Remember England in the same era. Remember the Dutch tulip craze, America in 1929, Japan in 1991, and Venezuela in the 2010s. Empires and economies have fallen because of financial mismanagement, and individual fortunes have disappeared for the same reason. Don't let the illusion fool you. The most important takeaway? Build value, not just wealth. Focus on skills, productive assets, and tangible resources that can survive storms. Understand the systems you operate in, and always ask the question, if the market collapses or trust evaporates, what will still hold value? That mindset turns vulnerability into resilience, and it separates those who merely survive from those who thrive. History is filled with lessons hiding in plain sight. If this video helped you understand the forgotten scandals that shaped empires, hit subscribe so you don't miss more insights into how money, power, and value really work. Because the stories that history forgot often contain the wisdom that can protect your future. We often think of history as grand battles, legendary rulers, or towering monuments. But the real forces that shook empires were sometimes far less glamorous: money mismanaged, schemes exposed, and trust broken. Financial scandals have toppled dynasties, ruined cities, and shifted the course of nations, yet many of them have been forgotten. Today, we're going to uncover those scandals, not for shock value, but to understand a crucial truth. Money on paper is fragile, and even the wealthiest empires can crumble when trust in finance collapses. Let's start with one of the earliest examples in modern Europe, the Mississippi Bubble in France. In the early 1700s, John Law, a Scottish banker, convinced King Louis XV to back a massive expansion of paper currency through the Mississippi Company. The promise was simple: invest in colonial Louisiana and your fortunes would multiply. Nobles and merchants lined up to buy shares, believing the paper profits were real. For a time, it looked like magic. Paper wealth soared, lavish lifestyles were funded, and France appeared unstoppable. But it was an illusion. The profits were inflated, the land overvalued, and when confidence collapsed in 1720, fortunes vanished almost overnight. Those who had tangible assets, land, production, skills, survived. Those chasing the illusion of fast money were ruined. Here's the lesson that history keeps repeating. Apparent wealth can evaporate instantly when it's built on hype and speculation. The Mississippi Bubble isn't just a French story. The same principle played out in England with the South Sea Bubble. The South Sea Company promised to take on England's national debt while profiting from trade in South America. Investors, fueled by rumors and greed, poured in gold. Stock prices skyrocketed. Aristocrats, bankers, and common citizens alike felt they had stumbled on guaranteed riches. But, as with France, it was built on false promises. By 1720, the bubble burst. Shares lost nearly all their value, and many families were financially destroyed. England had to stabilize its economy, reform financial oversight, and rebuild trust, a process that took years. But the story of scandal isn't limited to Europe. Let's jump to the Dutch tulip mania of the 1630s, which may seem like a quaint anecdote today, but was a financial earthquake in its time. Tulips became symbols of status and wealth. Prices for rare bulbs soared beyond comprehension. A single bulb could cost more than a house. Speculators borrowed heavily to buy bulbs, believing prices would keep rising. But eventually, the market collapsed. People lost fortunes overnight. The Netherlands didn't fall apart completely, but the event exposed the dangers of speculative frenzy and the societal vulnerability when value is detached from utility. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the same patterns emerge in far larger economies. In America during the 1920s, banks, investors, and ordinary citizens were swept up in the roaring stock market. Leveraged speculation was everywhere, and profits seemed endless. By 1929, the bubble burst. The crash didn't just destroy paper wealth, it shattered confidence in the entire financial system. Millions lost jobs, savings, and homes. The government had to intervene to restore stability, but the damage lingered for a decade. It's easy to see why this period is studied so often, but many lesser-known scandals of the era are rarely remembered. A striking example of financial manipulation comes from Al Capone. Widely remembered as a notorious gangster, Capone's power extended far beyond crime on the streets. He built a hidden financial empire, exploiting banks, insurance companies, and tax systems to conceal vast sums of money. Through clever use of loopholes, manipulation of transactions, and layers of secrecy, he was able to operate with near impunity. Ironically, when the authorities finally brought him down, it wasn't for violent crimes like murder or bootlegging, it was for tax evasion. Capone's case revealed a critical lesson. Financial systems can be shaped, bent, or exploited by those with influence and knowledge, even without overt violence. The consequences of that influence often remain hidden until they intersect with law or public scrutiny. A similar pattern appeared decades later in Japan during the 1980s. The nation experienced an extraordinary asset bubble, fueled by aggressive speculation from banks and corporations. Stock and real estate prices soared, creating illusions of wealth that had little basis in underlying value. At the peak, the land beneath Tokyo's Imperial Palace was valued higher than the entire state of California, a stark reminder of how disconnected paper wealth can become from reality.